So I know some of you that regularly watch this channel may be a little bit confused by the title on this video. I normally post Fallout 4 mods weekly on Sundays. I post this almost every single Sunday, as I have for many weeks or even years now. Well, today, as you could probably tell, it is going to be a bit different. There really wasn't a ton of super awesome releases. They're still worth covering, and I'll get into that in a moment. But instead, I wanted to make a video that I thought would be kind of interesting, definitely of interest to some of you because I get these kind of questions a lot. And I wanted to show you some mods that I use on a daily basis when filming my videos, typically in the background, and really just how I use them as a content creator, the way I play Fallout 4. In addition, I also do want to mention I am going to be doing a live stream, as I kind of hinted at a little bit earlier. I plan to do this at about 6 p.m. Eastern time, so depending on when this video goes up, an hour to 2 hours after it, it's going to be right here on YouTube, so if you're just subscribed, or alternatively, if you actually check out my Discord, which I recently started to share videos with all of you, there's no chat functionality, just I will post a video there when it's uploaded, since they're not always sent to sub boxes. And in 5 days time, I'm actually going to pick one random person from that Discord to win $50 in either a Steam gift card or a PayPal, Xbox Live points, whatever it may be. Either way, with all that being said, this long intro over, let's just jump into the video. I probably get questions about this mod more so than any other one, and it's going to be Vogue ENB. If you don't know what an ENB is, such as if you're an Xbox One player, it's more or less going to be kind of an overhaul to the visual aspect of Fallout 4. It's going to change the lighting, it's going to change some of the bokeh and depth of field effects, things like that. I guess one of the better ways to describe it probably is, if you've ever seen in movies the raw footage versus the color corrected footage, that's somewhat similar to what an ENB is going to do for Fallout 4. Again, I use Vogue ENB in tandem with Vivid Weathers. People always ask, how do you get your game to look so good? And it's honestly really just those two mods used together. I personally like Vogue because I think it really maintains a fairly naturalistic look on the game. It looks like Fallout 4, just a little bit more enhanced, there's a little bit more vibrance, but it still is largely the same color palette as the vanilla game. I've been using this pretty much since I installed an ENB. I've switched once or twice to other ones, but I keep going back to Vogue because it just really is my favorite. There's some alternatives out there that may make the game look a little bit better when looking at stills or different screenshots, but for all around playing through the game, maintaining a decent FPS, I think Vogue ENB, again with Vivid Weathers, is probably the best combination that there currently is on the market. Outside of course Film Workshop, where you could pretty much customize it to be whatever ENB you want. So we do have survival options, and I know I've talked about this mod so many freaking times, but it's just a super powerful tool that honestly should have been in Fallout 4 by default. It allows you to curtail and pretty much customize every aspect of Fallout 4 survival mode. I think survival mode is actually the only way you should be playing Fallout 4 in like a normal playthrough. I think it's way more enjoyable than every other mode, and it's just honestly the way the game was meant to be played, at least in my eyes. The one aspect about this mod I use the most is the combat settings. I personally like playing Fallout 4 with high damage. So that meaning that there's going to be increased damage dealt and received by NPCs, and of course 2 NPCs. This can create really tense gunfights and just all around make for a very cool experience, but that's not always appropriate in videos. If I'm just one-shotting everything or getting one-shot myself, that's not necessarily going to be super interesting to watch. To really show off a new piece of equipment, sometimes you want to have a little bit of a bullet sponge so people get to see the reloads, the different effects it does have. So I often am playing with these sliders, and it really does give you very different effects in game. In addition to that, sometimes I just don't feel like dealing with the effects of survival mode, such as eating, sleeping, drinking, eating, so I will disable those, which you also can do through survival options. Then we do have the Leer, so this is really just the current thing I'm using. Normally I like to have one custom piece of equipment to be using on my character in the background of my videos. I typically shy away from the vanilla options because I just think they're kind of boring, and you're normally watching a video of mods on my channel, and it's nice to actually have a mod being used as my primary firearm. Again, the Leer by far has been my favorite as of late. It's a really cool new laser that if you haven't seen my full video on it in Mods Weekly, I think last weekend, well honestly you don't even have to watch the video, just check out the mod because it's amazing. It's currently available for PC and Xbox One, and it's just all around an extremely well polished piece of equipment that actually offers a bunch of other features like automatron support, different turrets for your settlements. But again, this is the spot on this list that's probably up to the most variability. Before the Leer I was using the Watts, before the Watts I was using the RU556, and in between those two there's a ton of other ones that I just kind of had for a few days. Either way, again, the Leer is definitely going to be one of the coolest ones out right now, and of course the latest. So even though we do have all these different pieces of equipment in Fallout 4, one mod I consistently go back to actually get to experience them is going to be WReplacers. What it's going to do is actually replace a vanilla piece of equipment with a mod one. There's a bunch of different configurations, so basically there's different files you can download to have a different effect in game. For example, the default AR I have replaced with Wasteland Melody's Service R. Same thing with the Combat S, I have that replaced with Deadpool 2099's Hunting S. So now I will never again in vanilla Fallout 4 ever have to see that vanilla AR or that vanilla Combat S. Instead, I'm going to get their modded counterparts, and again, I'm just not a fan of those vanilla options. I think the modded ones are higher quality, they're more interesting, and even beyond that, a bit more dynamic. There's more customizability options, more color customization options, so it just kind of freshens things up a little as you do see NPCs carrying these. And all around, something that some of you may have noticed in the background of my videos. I personally think the vanilla AR in Fallout 4 is disgusting, and honestly, one of the worst pieces of equipment visual-wise that I've ever seen in a video game. Alright, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but Fallout 4 typically has some pretty interesting stuff going on in that category, and they really dropped the ball on Fallout 4. Last but not least, we do have NPCs Travel. Naturally, if you've played through Fallout 4 in the way I have, that being showcasing a ton of mods, especially equipment mods where you have to shoot something or want to go take somebody down, you run out of cool locations to actually use that thing in. So I do use the mod NPCs Travel to kind of alleviate this somewhat. NPCs Travel is going to more or less make it so little groups of NPCs will walk from one point to another point throughout the Commonwealth. You can actually customize it quite extensively as to what's going to appear walking like this. All the major factions are included there, as well as some of the different creatures and even some of the lesser known factions. So normally while I'm playing through Fallout 4, I'll hear gunfire in the distance, and I'll just start walking towards that direction and find some interesting encounter going on. Then whatever mod I'm showcasing, if it's appropriate to be shown in that fashion, I'll start using in that setting. I don't always do this in my videos, but when I do, I feel like it just creates a way more natural sense of combat and not so forced as it is other times. And that's pretty much it. Those are 5 mods that I use on a daily basis. Things I have installed pretty much all the time, and again, are actually using the features of all the time. But of course, before we end off this video, we do have today's psychology fun fact of the day, and it's going to be about the order effect. So this is more or less suggesting that we as humans are predisposed to actually pick the first thing on a list more often than any of the other things on that list, when they are all largely going to be equal. It kind of makes sense intuitively. I mean, that's like the first thing you see, just pick that one, why not? There was actually a study done where there's a bunch of different tents, people are shopping for tents, and people picked the first tent 2.5 times more than any of the other 10 tents on that list. So 10 tents in total, the first one got picked 2.5 times more than any of the other ones, even though they all largely did have different pros and cons, all being pretty good tents though. It's really interesting, and obviously it has pretty big impacts with things like voting on a ballot, which name's going to appear first and in which section. Things like the order effect suggest that maybe a little bit more thought should be put into how you order names, and a lot of times people might put them side by side or try and counteract this in other ways. That's pretty much going to wrap it up for this one though, guys. Again, I'm probably going to be live streaming in about an hour and a half from the time this is uploaded, but otherwise, thank you for watching again, and I hope to see you all next time.